we do go into enemy mode. When is enemy mode, or is it ever correct? Yes, we're to love our enemies, but even Jesus says, you brood of vipers, tell that fox Herod. I mean, how do we differentiate between loving our enemies on that one hand and then separating ourselves and calling something evil at the same time?
So the thing about enemy mode, once your brain is in enemy mode, is that it no longer is calculating the least harmful alternative. So a chokehold versus just subduing you and taking you to the jail are kind of the same, but the chokehold's faster. So the least harmful alternative doesn't get calculated. When we're dealing with enemies from a biblical point of view, we still have to be thinking, what's the least harmful alternative? And it doesn't mean that we don't understand how they think, but we don't also fall into that my win is making you lose perspective. Actually, our win is making them raise their status to being children of God like we are. And in fact, the more annoying they are, probably the farther they are from who God meant them to be. And if we're trying to help them become who God meant them to be, the more egregiously different they are, the more the love of God is supposed to support us and go like, yeah, there's somebody who really needs me. So let's go after that, as opposed to, well, there's somebody who's going, we'll win if you can make them lose. And that's what enemy mode does to your brain. It figures, we'll win if you lose, as opposed to my win is helping you become who you were meant to be. So I don't think we ever want to get into enemy mode deliberately. But the actual answer is not to keep ourselves out of it, because your brain goes into enemy mode very easily and well, just slides right into it. Sort of like the difference between going down a hill on a toboggan and having to walk it back up the hill again. Getting out of enemy mode is much harder. And to do that, we have to connect with the mind of Christ. Okay, so this is somebody who doesn't wish me well. How does your kingdom see this? What is our kingdom strategy? And one of the things that we don't want any of our enemies to do, which gets back to the other part, is to mistake what they're doing is what God wants.
Right.
So if we allow them to be deluded and think, oh, that God's going to love what you're doing now, we would have to still denounce something, but then we have to add to that, and that's not who God means you to be. And let me help you become the person God wants you to be. If we don't add that to it, now we've just stayed enemies. It's much easier to describe than it is to do, I might add.
Well, you also talk about this in this rare leadership, and I want to transition a little bit, because RARE is an acronym, and it stands for return to joy, and then making sure that I acting as yourself, and then I got to think here,
remain relational.
Remain relational. That's it. Remain relational, acting like yourself, return to joy, and then endure hardship well. Right? In this rare leadership. Describe that for a moment, those 4 points in the rare leadership and what that is.
Well, first of all, that acronym is something that Dr. Marcus Warner came up with. And I do so poorly with acronyms that before this call, I went and looked it up so I could remember.
I love it. That's great. You're being your authentic self.
So that's how I happen to know. And
so good.
Yeah. So here's the remain